Hi, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to do a first light on the Hampton Vista 500 oval. However, this will apply for the majority of wood burning Hampton and Panoramic models that we sell. So the stove's been fitted here and we're now going to add some wood in and get it lit. Firstly, let's open up the door, open it up. And on this one, we are going to do the top-down method, which is some slightly larger pieces on the bottom, a few extra bits of gaps here, a few slightly bigger pieces on top. Probably not the best way, the most beautiful way of doing it. And then add these slightly smaller bits here. So the general idea of doing it this way is so when you put your firelighters in here, it's burning at the top piece and then slowly burns down onto slightly larger logs, reducing the need to actually keep on opening up the door, which can be quite important on freestanding stoves with a twin wall chimney system, which doesn't draw quite as well as, say, a stove in a standard opening, which has a very good draw on it, and you can be a bit more maybe lazy with how you light it. So that's why the top-down method can be quite a good way of getting some instant heat into the chimney before you have to keep on opening the door. So let's keep filling it now, and that should do it nicely. So I'm going to now tuck in a few firelighters in here. Just get them right down below. 2 would generally be enough, but I'm going to add a third because, again, the fuel here is not the best wood today. So on this stove here, it's just got a single event. This is closed, this is open. So when you light the stove, you want this fully open. So what this does is this draws the air in from behind the stove and then passes it through these series of holes at the back and through the baffle plate here. Being a wood stove doesn't have a grate because wood doesn't require the air from underneath. It really just needs the air from over the top. And in addition, when you have the stove lit, you want to have the door just ajar a little bit, which gets that initial burst of air into the chamber. So let's get it lit now. Let's move one of these out of the way. Try not to burn myself. Yeah, okay. Keep it slightly there. Another little bit on top as well. Okay, so that should now catch. Now we're just going to leave the door ajar just as it takes off, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so just going to step back in here now. So around about 3 minutes plus, you want the door open just to get the air flowing in. And then from there onwards, you should be able to close the door up. It's not an exact science, it will depend on the chimney and the fuel that you're burning, but we're going to see how we're getting on and see what happens when the door closes. So that's good. So what's happened here is the air stopped flowing through the door here and instead is flowing through the back of the stove, and you can see it just coming out through these series of holes at the back, and eventually will be coming out through the baffle plate as well. And that's what you want really. The air's flowing through, doing its job, where the chimney's sucking up the smoke and the air through here, through the holes and up the chimney. So from this point you can leave it like this and just allow it to slowly burn through. You don't want to go too crazy if it's a first burn, because this one here especially has a cast iron top and a cast iron door, so you don't want to shock the stove and shock the paint as well. We're probably best off just giving it a little shake now, opening it back up again and just putting a bit more fuel on it. So just going to open up the door. It's still cool at the base here, so I won't use the glove. And you want to just slowly allow it to settle, give it a little poke. It probably still isn't quite there yet, but shaking these embers down just helps to get it all going a bit better. And then another little bit of wood on. And you can leave it ajar a little bit longer. I think looking at how it went, I think we probably closed it down slightly too early. It needs a little bit more air in it. The chimney that we have it on isn't perfect, so we are kind of battling that a little bit here with this, but you can see it's now really taken off again. And I can feel the heat is getting inside the chamber, and that's what you want. It makes everything a lot easier to use when there's heat inside the base. So you can see it's now, this piece of wood here is caught nice and quickly. And in a moment, we'll come back to it and just close it down a little bit more. So as you can see now, this piece of wood has caught a lot quicker because of the heat inside the stove. So we're now going to open it back up again, very slowly, just because it is on a short chimney and we don't want too much smoke to come out. Put that one on, nice and hot there. So then we're just going to leave this door ajar again a little bit, just to get this one going until we finally close it off. And then what we're going to do is leave the vent open for a while whilst it catches, and then gradually close it off slightly, just to have it burning slowly, not too hot, not raging away, because we want to allow just the stove to settle. The paint on the stove will start to get tacky as well. So you want to be very, very careful about touching the stove itself. The good thing about this particular model here is this will be cooler to touch. So this won't be curing with the stove and become tacky, which in turn can actually remove the paint. It's more common on handles which are here, where the oven glove actually catches on the paint as it's tacky and takes the paint away. So you just want to be careful about touching the stove whilst it's still in the curing phase, which can be 1, 2, 3 burns. Just don't be touching it too much because you can start to ruin the paint. Afterwards though, the paint hardens, becomes very hard and tactile, and is much better for wiping. But for now, you just want to be very, very mindful of that. And you'll also start to smell a rather unpleasant smell from the stove, which is the paint curing. You can't avoid it at all. It's a part of all wood burning stoves which have been painted. It's not specific to this model. It's not a particularly pleasant smell. You can even sometimes see sort of a haze coming off the top of the stove as it's curing. You just want to have the windows and doors open, allow some fresh air in there whilst that clears, and then a few burns afterwards, you'll notice that goes, and then at the same time you'll also notice that the paint's hardened and cured, and then that's you away. Okay, so we're at a good stage of the fire now. Some good embers on the bottom and some logs that have caught nicely. I think at this stage it's hot enough for this first burn, so we're just going to slightly close it off. That's fully off. If you left it like that, the stove will go out completely. So we want to just have it just about there. That should be enough, maybe a fraction less. Yeah, just to keep it ticking over, not burning too hot, and then this will eventually burn out to embers and it'll be perfect for another burn. So just the takeaways here, you don't want to go too hard on your first burns, gradually build it up, gaining some heat inside the stove. The paint does go tacky, so you want to be careful not to be touching the paint, and also careful when you're opening the door to do it slowly. There's a rope seal which goes all the way around here which can stick to the paint, so if you pull the door open too fast, you can pull the rope off. That will just need gluing back on. It's quite simple, but it's something you don't want to have to do. Gradually let the stove come up to temperature, and then do this 1 or 2 times, and obviously noting that there will be the smell coming off the paintwork as that paint cures. And then from there, you're good to go. I hope this has been helpful, but if you have any questions, do let us know.